So just because you have a good tech, or it doesn't mean that you actually can build the right product. And also, like, if you have a very good product, it's neither enough. You really need to build your distribution as well.
Greetings, everyone. This is Across the Funnel. As you know, we've been doing this new series of Hyperengage podcast by the name of Across the Funnel, and it's gonna pick up the pace real good with different founders and technologies coming from different verticals this quarter and next. And of course, by the end of this year, we'll have another series going on. So thank you very much for always being patient and listening to these conversations that are always candid, spontaneous, and people sharing real problems and not just the successes that win. Today, we're going to be talking about product and how customer success is now dependent as more than ever. With the product, and all these product leaders and teams are living closer to the customers and their success more than ever. So that's why we're talking about product. Have these product leaders from all across the globe. One of the fastest growing companies she's been a part of. As a former VP of product, a Rillion based out of Stockholm, Sweden, and serving accounts payable automation software services with accounts teams, and doing it at scale, and doing everything product there. So thank you very much, Francesca, for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I really look forward to our conversation.
Love that. I know that you've been you've been in this product roles for almost a decade now, and your recent role you just exited. So how do you see this notion of having the commercial teams work with the products closer than ever, and now the decisions that you make in the product are definitely having a revenue impact and of course direct sales impact. So how do you see this notion, especially after this automation enabled by AI, and keeping the teams work asynchronously and automation and everything? So where you're at with that as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, definitely is super important for a product to be close to the business. I mean, that's mainly the work of product, to build product that can actually create a value for customer, as well as the company can monetize and drive the growth. And I think I was being very lucky in my career, because I started in a startup, so we were all very commercial. So from my perspective, I was born as a commercial product leader. And I came to product from commercial and insight experience before. So I think that is super good that many companies are going in this direction. And I think that the really transformation of the software into more subscription base has made this relation between revenue retention much closer to product, so that product leaders are, I mean, the CPO roles and VP are, for many company, has been something that has been there for a long time, but it's also a much newer role compared to CTOs. And in some company, still the product leadership is reporting into CTO or operation, but it's still quite clear that many companies are doing this shift. And I think it's a very positive thing, because it allows the team to be very close to the business and make and drive the product there. It can actually both, in first place, help the customer and to really drive and solve their problems, but also finding a way on how the company can leverage to build a sustainable business on the product that you develop.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, and you mentioned the subscription-based economy, that it's all about seeing customers as they're buying the buying the product not to use it, or not because it has some certain features. They are buying the product to solve their problem. So when it comes to solving their problems, that is more customer-centric approach, slightly different than core product development and all of that. So as much as all these systems and leaders that enable the product leaders or product teams to integrate with that customer centricity mindset, it elevates the whole function. And at the end of the day, this is, when it comes to living in the system of truths for customer facing tooling, if we just talk about the tech stack, like CRMs, everything is more about integrated in the workflow, and everything is a lot of these categories that we've seen recently got merged, and then they are now working as analog or as the same function, or so this is crazy times when you see cross-functional transformation across the B2B SaaS only, like subscription-based economy. So I mean, I'm so glad that we met today, and I got to know about Rillion. So we're going to talk a little bit about your role there. So you spent about almost like 3 years. That's quite a long time, with so much of opportunities and so much more that you can, you can contribute as a leader. So now, thinking about Rillion, I know that customer success, as you mentioned earlier, you've been more commercial, and you were still staying closer to the deal side of things and contract side of things. So now, what kind of systems you had and processes you had that can exactly measure the success around, let's say, onboarding? So if you just talk about the onboarding, and then we can carry it forward.
Yes. So mainly, like, think about the context of Rillion. It's a very mature company. It was grounded in the 90s, and today is the result of a lot of different merge acquisitions. So it has a quite comprehensive portfolio and quite a lot of complexity. So it was really a journey to transform the company towards being more customer centric, more like a forward-looking company. And when it comes to the one of the key things from the product team perspective, when I started, it was to build really this understanding about the customer. And we were struggling in the beginning because the team was very like reactive, as it's not very uncommon in SaaS B2B, but they were really struggling to make impact. So we had to really work into define clear priorities. And to do that, we started working very close to both the teams in terms of like understanding what was the obstacle for the sales team, the customer success team, the professional service, which was actually responsible for the onboarding, and also start directly working to the customer so that we could go a little bit deeper than just understanding all the feature they wanted, but understanding also why they wanted this feature, what could they do that they could not do together, and try to find some dimension that were a little bit bigger than the actual than the actual features, so that we could think about broader theme to work on to really make the difference. And onboarding is definitely one of the area that we look into. And there, I think there were like the first challenge was really to even like bring a common definition about what is our onboarding, where it starts, which team are involved. So to actually sketch the onboarding journey, defining which are the pains, and since we like Rillion came from different companies, different merge, there were still a little bit of dependency on specific person running the onboarding. So it was a lot about unifying according to best practice and defining that part. And then from there, then you can work to productify those things. But it really starts
Absolutely.
with the collaboration and how can we run, like what are the touch points of the customer? How can we make them so smooth as possible? And in all those touch points, trying to find measure that can help you towards toward making that experience as easy as possible, and also
Mm.
accepting, because when I started we had this idea about about very streamlined onboarding, which is what we aim at. But also we need to like see that when you work with ERP, it's one of the most complex system that you have in the company. It's very like heavy in terms of data. So ours is like in those kind of system, of course you want to make the process very simple, but there will be need of touch point where and solving the complexity. So you need to be
Absolutely.
very customer focused in terms that they should do the least effort. You should provide them as the easiest way, but neither think that everything can be done in one click, because there are
Absolutely.
complex
Yeah.
decisions to be made. And
Right.
also, and there where AI helped us a lot, I think, because we had like super good documentation internally in terms of having the information updated, which was already great, but maybe it was not as digestible for a customer, very heavy, with a lot of detail, maybe written more towards an internal target. But having those data could be a was a very good ground for us to start leveraging AI to transform the data toward the customer. So we launched one of our launch was a Raleigh, which is an AI assistant, and that enabled us to take that step much faster to provide good information during the onboarding in a very a chat interface rather than having documentation that you have to read, understand, and try. You could have it there in the product when you need it. And I think
Mhm.
that kind of interaction is super good because normally, like this kind of onboarding, like when you go through the onboarding with the personas, it's a certain time, and onboarding can take some time because maybe internally you want to do it stepwise, making sure that everything is working fine. And then when you are there and you start actually working, you may have forgot everything in the that you have gone through in the onboarding. So this kind of accessibility in the product that you can ask your question in the way you want and not have to digest the information from somebody else. That was a very good way to do it, and super good that we can do it with AI today.
Absolutely. I love the way that you mentioned that, you had the documentation because to be able to implement AI or automation, you need to have a really strong hold onto your processes, internal documentation, knowledge base, and all of that. And, at some point, like we also like a very small startup, a tech company, and in the beginning, the only thing that we started using Notion, and we had like every single document from like even this podcast and all of this, every document inside it. And then came ChatGPT 4, and we started like try to articulate this document into some sort of information that's going to automate some of the stuff. And it started hallucinating all of this because the documentation was not in like in, I would say, in the more workflow or strategic kind of manner. So then we started learning, hey, this is how you got to do the documentation to
Mm.
help AI learn your workflows, and then come up with different automation options, and then you can use third-party tooling too. So I love the way that you
And also to
thought through
improve
this.
it, because
Yeah.
of course I'm a little bit too optimistic when I said the documentation was perfect. I think it was a good ground in terms of how the product works, but then it also enable us through the seeing which question they ask and like which question do we get right and so on to improve it where it mattered the most rather than really thinking about everything, and then it becomes a so big project that normally company cannot really drive that forward.
Yeah, appreciate it that you've been pretty explanatory when it comes to onboarding and what kind of initiatives have you taken. I know that uh, product product leader has more to do with the onboarding because a lot of these sales leaders, they will come banging, hey, you build this feature, you build this product, and tell us like what's going to be the stuff, how we can make it self-serve, plug and play. And I love the way that you mentioned that it's not always about like making it self-serve, plug and play with some of the complex systems. It's more important sometimes to make sure that the customer is the center of all of this, and you are working as partner and
Mm.
trying to lift takes off their shoulder, and instead of just telling them, hey, this is plug and play, go learn it, and do all the integration, implementation, all of that. So sometimes as a startup you have to nail things for one segment, one vertical, and then you go per scale. So I know even this today is not possible. Like it does so much of AI. You go serve healthcare, you go serve financial services, consulting firms, law firms. They have like so scattered processes and information that it's so hard for you to productize or template or standardize or have a playbook. So, I think it's one of the DTM strategies that we have learned ourselves is to, if you really want to go to that product-led sales or product-led motion, growth motion model, you just need to laser focus on one industry vertical, and you got to do
Mm.
it that well. That's so. Now, so I know that onboarding has been the biggest concern with a lot of these companies serving these kind of verticals. Uh, and once the onboarding is done, customer is well inside the product using the product, different modules, different features. So what was your process? I know that shouldn't be the question from you, but I know you've been working cross-functional small teams, so you might have some information for Rillion that they have to track success across these stages. I'm talking about
Mm.
customer life cycle stage, like post onboarding, the biggest thing that how fast fastest if we can deliver value, how we can enable them to adopt to the platform, use the platform potentially, so we can retain them and hit the
Yeah.
bottom line goal, which is of course revenue, customer retention, and then we can talk about expansion. But I think retention is good enough topic that we can explore more. So, what kind of systems and technologies you had in place? I know that you recently exited, so from an AI standpoint, it's not too outdated. So,
Mm.
what was the success criteria or success measurement post onboarding to enable the next KPIs, which is the
Yeah.
biggest
I
retention?
think there it's super interesting that you asked because it was actually, I would say it was not one metric, but it was a very, very hard work where we worked very close across the organization, but especially also customer success and product in different direction. One was about like really work together in terms we did like to build our as you say the customer we have had customer for a long time but maybe not really help them to leverage the complete product functionalities, so it was a lot about understanding what they were using, and we worked quite hard with our new price and packaging that was directly linked to automation. So how could we help the customer to start with a basic package and then adding like driving automation to more functionality? And this was like I think it's super important if you work with product and customer success to find a common goal. Like if we have the NRR goal to drive that for our customer, we had exactly the same goals.
Did it
So that
completely solve the problem? Having a
well,
segmented or standalone pricing for lower packages for low usage customers or smaller customers, bigger packages
yeah, we
that need more
didn't like
modules based on the use
around
cases.
in terms of aligning. We had very different like pricing structures since normally when you have company that have operate for a long time, you may have some differentiation. So we actually really create a good ground where we moved every customer to the same price and packaging package, and also the same contracts, and giving us much more easy also from a product side to really drive the product forward and not be linked to specific ad hoc contracts.
Mhm,
So I think that
mhm,
was successful, but it was not fast. Like it took some time first
mhm,
to understand which price and packaging strategy we would have, and then to build actually the customer success team, and then driving it forward.
mhm,
And I think that that was really good. And then also we worked really hard to create a playbook, automation playbook with best practice, and those kind
mhm.
of specific um, metrics were used and customer success to actually follow the automation and making sure that the customer was has clear goal and were achieving the right goals.
Okay. So
Um,
you mentioned customer success team. I know that like Rillion was there for almost like 30 years now and quite
yeah,
a long time, like 3 decades, and they've seen everything. So now thinking about customer success function that is only responsible for revenue retention, customer retention.
yeah.
Did you guys have that function there, like VP of CS core for that role?
Yeah, so it's a VP of customer success and then customer
Mhm,
success. But that function was quite recent. So it was set in place approximately when I started, it was all
mhm.
like starting to
Okay.
grow. And
Yeah,
before we
no,
had
that
this
that was also
professional
like. Mhm,
service and
mhm.
support.
So, because I think predominantly the success function is to make sure to enable onboarding adoption and drive retention off of qualitative signals, like not just the product usage, that
Yeah.
what they're saying, what they're requesting on support, any engagements that they have, any stakeholders that have changed their position or champions and all of that. So there are so many, I would say, layers to analyzing or having a 360 view on a customer lifecycle to forecast health or test. So did you guys have any kind of technology, any kind of internal tooling to make
Yeah,
sure that
I
it's,
think we
it's more?
built that. I mean, we were really in a journey of build our data in different sites, so that we'll build it through it.
Mm,
So actually, it was a tool that the customer success started that will link with our product data as
mm,
well. And I
mm,
actually don't know if that was the like
mm,
route forward, but it
mm,
was there for us. The main focus was to really like making sure that each customer could achieve the
their
value,
goal.
the maximize the
Mm,
value. Retention is not as a big challenge in terms that system as Rillion are quite heavy to, especially for the mid-large segment. We have a broader portfolio. It's not a big like issue because the decision takes quite a long time and the change is quite a big effort. So in terms of retention, that
okay.
category is quite stable. So that part is not as
Hmm.
important. Of course, it's important. We worked a lot to drive to have signals
SMB.
when we could like we
Mm,
can like mention that this customer is at risk. So in terms of product and customer success, we had follow-up meeting every month or second
mhm,
week depending on the product to really go through which are the customer at risk, what are we seeing the data, what is indicating, or the
mm,
qualitative
mhm,
data from the customer success person, and then
mhm,
making sure that we could have a proactive approach toward those
mhm,
customers. So that
mhm,
was
mhm. Okay. I,
what
I
we did.
I cannot agree more that when it comes to large enterprises, change management and is the big thing. And
Yeah.
whatever product that you have deployed, of course, if that is not good enough, it's not going to land well with enterprises. That's the way it works. But if you are working with enterprises, like Salesforce has the largest market cap with enterprises, just because like they're like user experience wise, there are a lot of CRMs that are better, but just the stickiness of the product and the amount of change management it would take for an enterprise to move to a new tooling is what they make money off of. It's just as simple. So I love it. So throughout these 3 years that you've been working on the product, so what? And this is the last question on Rillion, and then we go more towards your what you're aiming at, like what's going to make you excited this year. So now as a VP of product, I know it's more about product and driving growth through product and setting the new goals for the vision of the product and do the new features initiatives that are product centric. But when it comes to SMB to mid market, because now it's of course every category is consolidating. New businesses are coming. There are 600 million plus on LinkedIn. If you talk about small to mid-sized companies, that segment, how's really an approaching towards like from a go-to-market standpoint, apart from the enterprises?
You mean the SMB segment?
Yeah,
The-
SMB to slightly, yeah, early mid-market companies
Yeah,
like
because we
I would
like
say
in the
Series A
Rillion
post something.
portfolio is like we had mainly two products, one targeting SMB segment, and there
Mhm.
we have completely different dynamics in terms of retention as well, because of course it's
Oh,
much
okay, a
easier to
different set
implement
of
them.
customer success
Yeah,
managers that have the bigger books and
exactly, and much
okay.
more
Mhm,
like a smaller company, but also very fast implementation, but also easier
mhm,
to churn. And then another
mhm,
product that is more targeting the mid-large segment, not really enterprise, but toward enterprise, where so they are, yeah, that's the portfolio mainly.
mhm.
So
Okay.
of course, very different dynamics in those
Mhm,
two segments, and so they're like in terms also of positioning, or especially in the dynamics on the market, the SMB segment, of course, much more at risk of ERP growing up and eating up that part. So there it
mhm,
was a lot of work in terms of how do we positioning within the new upcoming AP
mhm,
solution that are much
mhm,
simpler, and that dynamic was not there for the mid-large segment. So
mhm,
definitely very
mhm,
different
mhm.
dynamics. Was that your question
Okay.
or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, of course, the dynamics, even for SMB, might change industry vertical to and then product to
Yeah.
product, and of course, the way you approach go to market for SMB becomes really tricky because you need to make sure that you optimize, time to value for people to adopt the platform because for a lot of products, you can make that product smaller, productizing, just like you were approaching for SMBs. But for a lot of products, it's not sometimes to some point possible to actually craft the right product package for smaller companies. But they want companies to be bigger to grow with them. So Notion
And
had the same model in the beginning, like Notion, this documentation tool. Their vision was more towards like, hey, we'll grow with smaller startups, but then they realize like it's more about like bigger teams, while we're serving the smaller teams and
yeah.
have like maybe digital touch customer success motion in that.
Yeah, and
So
that's
you have
something
similar to that, right?
we really like, this very different dynamics in terms of pricing, sensitivity of the two target.
Mm,
We really saw it when we were working on our price and packaging, starting by having like very similar price and packaging, but really understanding that we
mm,
need to adapt to different dynamics because
mm,
it's really different, as you say, much more price
mm,
sensitive
mm,
and also like much more easier to make like change the decision. So you really
mm,
have to work in different way, and also like the actual persona for us using the product can be, it was very
mm,
different, like from serving bigger
mm,
like AP team from
mm,
very few individuals. So there are very a lot of
mm,
dynamics. They're different, and also the
mm,
sales motion is very different in terms of inbound
mm,
versus outbound. The
yeah.
sales, like the length of the sales cycle, is also very different.
Mm.
So it's almost as driving like very two companies within one, because they are not, many things are not working and operating in the same way.
I can't agree more on this. Now, Francesca, I know that this is the golden time for a product leader to work in a fast-paced environment. Even any environment that is not fast-paced, that means they're not doing anything big enough with this AI and everything product-wise. So, how do you see yourself as a product leader now, looking for, of course, the chief product officer role? And wish you good luck with that. A lot of companies listening to this would definitely know now once this episode goes live. How do you see yourself transitioning? I know that Rillion may or might not have given you that opportunity because they were like pretty like working more in the enterprise, and then like working like maybe a sort of a legacy technology. I'm just assuming. But now thinking of a product leader going into a new age AI's company, or a company that is trying to be AI native. That's only going to be two options for you, because a company that is willing to have AI first approach, or doing things or feature product initiatives really, really fast, or a company that is AI native startup. So what do
Mhm.
you prefer, and how you do you think that you're ready for it? How do you think that, okay, I mean, yeah, really, and I've done this, I've been there. So what is your kind of thought process now while being
Yeah.
open for this role?
Super good question. And I think for me, I really took some time to understand, okay, what are my drivers? And I 100% or more sure that I want to continue in product. And for me, is really about being in a context where you can drive innovation. So I'm not looking for optimizing something, but to really create innovation, either in an established company that wants to take the step forward, or a more newer company. And for me, it's that the thing that is really, it's as like it's easier to build because of AI, but also because of many other things if you compare to 20 years ago. But it's really still hard to make innovation happen, and that's where I really that's why I love to work in product, because I think that even if you have done things several times, it's never the same story. Like the principle about how you create a strong product team and product strategy and focus are similar, no matter, like if I look at my experiences, if I was in a startup, if I was growing in a global business with GFK or Ipsos, or as a part of more mature company as Rillion, but then to make them work in reality and really find the way forward, you don't know what it is, and nobody knows in the company. So you have to work with this learning culture where you can step by step find out what we don't know and what do we need to know to go to the next step, and being very experiment driven. So I really look for a company that wants to apply this way of working, because I think that like the customer, being very strong in driving customer insights and understanding your business where it is the only way to build actually an advantage towards customers, towards competitors. And it doesn't matter, like this will be a long-term advantage. If you really build a team that's able to drive this forward, you will be sustain your product and your business in a good way. So that's the like what I'm looking for. I'm quite open in terms of domain. I work in market research with FMCG, retailer, and in fintech. And I think that it takes like effort to learn the domain. But if it's not a super like compliance domain where you need specific consent, I think you can learn, but the product knowledge, that's harder to learn. And product, I think it's a hard work, but that's why I like it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's. I mean, I'm not sure if you would agree this with me or not, but in this time in 2026, uh, building a product has been the easiest than ever, and building the right product has been the hardest than ever. Do you agree or no?
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And I mean, I think that it's AI is not different from other innovation. As a like
Mhm.
McKinsey report, I think it was last year in autumn, it was around, I don't know if it was 80-90% of AI project fail. And it can like sound surprising, but if you look, like I come from FMCG, and there like the rate of new product in FMCG failing, it's about 70-80%. And if you look at the
Ooh.
startup failing, it's like, I don't know, 90% maybe. So, I mean, it's the same thing, it's same dynamic. So just because you have a like a good tech, or it doesn't mean that you actually can drive, like build the right product. And also, like if you have a very good product, it's neither enough. You really need to build your distribution as well. So you need to have the two things at the same time. And all of this is, of course, complex. So I agree with you.
Yeah, great, great. So now, thinking of industry verticals that you mentioned, like you are open to exploring more industry verticals, and that's gonna give seeing product in one industry vertical and seeing as a product leader in a entirely different industry vertical. Of course, what kind of learning do you have? Like, do you think that you're gonna have like in terms of product leadership, decision making, initiatives? Like as we sales leader, we think like, hey, selling that's a mobile phone might be different than selling a digital product, or maybe selling a healthcare SaaS might be different than selling an agriculture SaaS. So like we sales people, like we all think of, hey, let's explore more, let's explore more industry verticals, like more challenges, more experiences. This is what we always long for. So what is your thought process?
Like, hmm. I'm thinking that in terms of thing, if things that I already see, I'm not like a good fit in terms of it's a super heavy compliance, like banks and so on. That's not, I think, where uh,
Cybersecurity, like
yeah,
Fortinet.
exactly. That part, it will be not my fit. And also like very complex hardware products, where there is also a hardware part. That's also something. So I'm really thinking about the digital. And I think like my experience before, being with understanding how consumer and shopper make decision. That's what I did during my 13 years at Norm. It helps me a lot in this purchase decision, like trying to understand. So in that sense, I think that as long as it's not a domain that is super, like that really requires a deep understanding that is impossible to achieve in a few months, I think that brings me like yeah, I see it quite openly. And I'm more like I'm very curious as a person to really understand like the different context. And that's like working in market research. I always work with different customers, and it's about like really going in and try to understand the new context. And then when you think about how do we behave as a user, as a buyer, We are not so different, actually. Of course, there is difference if you are buying more towards FMCG consumer products, or if you are buying like enterprise solution or business to business product and so on. There is a difference, but at the end, there is a human behind, and
People
so if
buy
you
from
learn to
people, yeah.
understand that, I think you have a quite good possibility to do it in very different industries.
Love that. It's so hard to find these days with people with such diverse product experience that it has also an experience with the commercial side of things, like building relationships and building
Mm.
relationship with SMCP. So I found it so diverse, and I wish you really good luck with your new role. By the way, quick question that came. I'm a curious person. In
Yeah.
these 40 minutes, you might have noticed. So, what keeps you in Stockholm, Sweden? Tell us more about Stockholm, Sweden. How tech is like. Why you're so yeah, staying with technologies or working with technologies out of Sweden. Um, what's different about there? Like I know my last job, and that was the only job that I had back in 2019. I exited. Ever since then, I'm doing my own business, struggling. I don't know even how to write a letter, like a format or a resume. It's for the longest times. But that last startup was out of Sweden, Content Studios. So it was a social media marketing platform, and that was the only and first time that I got to know a little bit about the tech. So for our audience, just let us know why Francesca is still married to, working with technologies, especially in Sweden, the last role that I look at, and also what is about Sweden.
Yeah, that's a question. There could be a own podcast, I think, this one. But I'm here actually because I got married to a Swede that I met in Spain, and so that's what brought me here. But I really like, in general, I feel very lucky that I come in tech because it fits my personality very well in being curious and learning new stuff. But I think I really appreciate like the Swedish culture when they come to giving opportunities to people. So I come from Italy, and it's a very entrepreneurial country, I think. But still, I remember when I came here as a young person, and when I started with the startup, I got so much like opportunities in terms of really doing things. And I think in that sense, Italy, it's more like traditional. Maybe you come and you do very junior work. And here in Sweden, I really got a lot of opportunities, like even at the beginning of my career, when I didn't have experience. And also, I think there is a fantastic, of course, there is always more to do, but I think as a woman has also been a great to be in Sweden. I have two kids. I like both time when I was in maternity leave, I got a promotion when I came back. And I think these things do not happen in the same way in Italy, even if things are
It never
changing
does in the
everywhere.
US.
Yeah, and so I think I really like the culture in terms of being very open and also very entrepreneurial. I think they are, especially in Stockholm now, even more tech companies popping up. And I think it's about this way of being very collaborative and not too like having too many layers, not too formal. And I think that is a part of the Swedish company.
Mm,
So I really
great.
thrive in working in Sweden, and I
Mhm.
really recommend
Yeah,
it as a place to live.
yeah. Great. I love your journey, like the way you mentioned 30 years you came first time.
2020.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years you came as a young girl, and you mentioned that fact that it's not easy for uh somebody starting their journey in a country, and because that's a pivotal. A lot of countries that I see are moving out. I have a 7 months old.
Mhm.
First time parent, it's pretty challenging, but she's a daughter, so uh, slightly better. I'm assuming son would have been, a lot more challenging. So we're now thinking of moving out, and a lot of these countries that we evaluate, they're good enough, but they're not good for starting their career. Like
Mhm.
my wife, like
Yeah.
she wants to, So great point that you mentioned that Sweden is one of the countries that you can, as a woman, young woman coming as an immigrant, you can really start your career and have equal, better opportunities compared to many other countries starting out. So, one last question before I set you free is that what makes you excited in this 2026? You don't have to relate so much to AI if you don't want to, because everybody talks about AI. Like, what makes you excited as a professional going into this year? We just started. Like, let's call January as a buffer honeymoon time and started this year from February.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, I think like what I'm excited not about AI, I have to mention in some way because it's affecting so much like my work life. But I think what I'm excited about this hype that is turning down now, like, hey, AI will solve everything, in more to really have AI in applied in a way that can actually leverage good results. And especially, I'm thinking that um, it's how can I say this? It's a lot, I think, about understanding how can you create a collaboration workflow with AI and you, and with your team and AI, with your organization, and like how do you put your touch points so that you make sure that you can actually get better to what you're doing, but not get like faster to doing something in a not good way. So I think that these things about really looking at what humans will bring and what AI can do. And if I look at my own way of working, or I have been experimenting a lot with Cloud Code and different things, and I think it's really good if you find a way. There are things that I really don't like to do, and I can find a good flow to do them faster. But there are also things that I could do maybe faster, but that's where I maybe are my edge, or my really where I provide the good value. And it's important to
Mhm.
keep that and not become lazy and let AI do everything, because at the end, AI, it's average intelligence, and then we will do the same decision. But I think there is a very, like, what I hope AI is bringing, especially in product, I mean, that gives an extreme opportunity to work more with discovery, customer insights, and things that sometimes are hard to fit in if you don't have the right context as a product manager. By giving all this opportunity, I hope that it will bring more of good product in many companies. And I think there is no reason of not doing it now. And AI is really providing good yeah, tools and opportunity to do that and to learn, even if we don't have you don't have leader that help you to learn what good product is about.
Yo, yes, that was so powerful. Like, thinking of AI as a fine balance between efficiency and speed is going to be, as I understood, is going to be the next thing that will yield into building right products and customer experiences and beat anything. Having having a skill set or capability, a human capability to understand that balance and have that balance is super critical. Because I was, as you mentioned, like, I was also using Cloud Call, building the skill. I built my entire skill. I thought that this can
Yeah.
automate everything, and then I realized, like, oh, okay, well, is that not good enough, or my expectations were so high? Maybe my expectations were so high, so now I have to do this to make maybe fine tune it and all of that. So love that. Thank you very much, Francisca, for taking the time and sharing your insights, and getting to know you more was above everything else. And thank you for being who you are. And I wish you best for all the things that you're going to be making huge impact anywhere you go. And yeah, best of luck for that.
Thank you very much for today. It's been really interesting to talk to you.
Likewise. Bye bye.
Bye.